Samaranbham Shankaracharya-Padimam
Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Sahana Bhavatu Shavahi Om Shanti Shanti.
Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya, everyone.
Om Tat
Om
Sat,
Tat Sat, Om
Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya.
Okay, so we had finished second mantra of the second section of the second chapter. 222 we had finished. And where it was said that the purpose of our life is to understand that we are Brahman. Having said that, now the Shruti gives a particular example. And in that example is the example of a bowman and an arrow. And through that example, it is telling us how this sadhana is to be carried out. So we will just chant out the third mantra, 223, Mundaka Upanishad. Okay, in case anybody has forgotten. So we'll chant. Dhanurgrahitva Upanishadam Mahastram.
Dhanurgritva Upanishadam Mahantram
Sharam Yupasanishchitam Sandhita.
Charam
Yupasanishchitam Sandhadiyat
Sharam Yupasanishchitam Sandhita.
Saram Upasya Nishitam Sandhita
Ayam yatad bhavagatena chetasa.
Ayam
yatad bhavagatena chetasa
Lakshyam tadevaksharam somya vidhi.
Laksham
Laksham tavedaksharam somya vidhi.
So I'm just muting all of you and we'll look at the words. So Dhanuhu is the bow. Grihitva means having taken grasp of or having held it. Upanishadam means that which is available in the Upanishad. Maha-astram, no, literally astram means a weapon. I mean an arrow. Astra means an arrow. But if you look, there is another word which is saram. Okay, so sharam is the actual arrow. And since the word sharam is used for arrow, the word astram here has to have a different meaning. So astram here is going to be weapon. So it refers to the bow. So that Maha Astram, the great weapon. Sharam is the arrow. And Upasa Nishitam. So Upasa is Upasana. Upasana Nishitam. Nishitam means sharpened by. So Upasana Nishitam, that arrow which is sharpened by Upasana. And Sandadhita. Sandadhita means you fix it. Fixing it. On where do you fix an arrow? On the thread of the bow. And then Ayamya. Ayamya means pulling towards yourself, having drawn the bow. Then Tad Bhava Gatena. Fixing on that Tad. Tad here is Tad Brahman. So fixing your target as Tad Brahman. Chetasa with the mind. Lakshyam is the target. Tad Brahman Lakshyam. That Brahman is the target in your mind. And again a definition is given. Tadeva Aksharam. That immortal Brahman alone. Somya Vidhi. You must learn that. You must learn about that. Oh Somya, oh pleasing one. Okay. So in the previous mantra, the teacher had said that we should keep Brahman as the target. And now Angiras talks about the sadhana which is necessary for this sort of journey. The sadhana is called Jnana Yoga, but here it is given by way of an example, that of archery practice. As a very famous example, you will find that it is referred to very often elsewhere also. So in this mantra and the next mantra, mantra number 223 and 224, both of which are very important mantras, there is a comparison made between Jnana Yoga and archery. Okay, now if an archer, if you are an archer, let us say, and this archery has to be practiced, what all is required? First of all, you need the bow, then you need an arrow, then you need the target, and then you need the bowman, which in this case is yourself. Okay. So here, of course, that yourself doesn't hold good. So we'll here let us see what these four items mean. What are the four items? The target, the arrow, the bow, and the archer. So there are four, and the bowman or the archer. So there are four items to be detailed before we can put archery into practice. So target that is to be hit is Brahman. The arrow here is you, the jiva. Arrow is the jiva. The bow is the Upanishadam. Upanishad means what is found in the Upanishad. So that is what is found in the Upanishad is Omkara. So Omkara, or in other words, Brahma Jnanam. Right? Omkara represents Brahma Jnanam. So the Brahma Jnanam or Omkara, which is found in the Upanishads, that is the bow. And the archer is the teacher. The bowman is the teacher. And by the very example itself, we have to understand that there is a target Brahman and there is an arrow Jiva. And therefore, the Upanishad is saying that there is already a seeming difference between Brahman and Jiva. You think that you are not Brahman, and therefore there is a difference. Because of that seeming difference arising out of the misunderstanding that you are not Brahman, there is a need to merge with Brahman. And therefore the Jiva is the arrow which goes and hits the target and merges with Brahman. So the Bheda Jiva, the different Jiva, has to merge with Brahman by hitting the target, Brahman. And the instrument to help the arrow travel is what? Is the bow. And therefore he says, Dhanur Grahitva Aupanishadam Mahastram. Holding that Mahastram, which is the bow, and Upanishadam, that which is revealed in the Upanishads. And Upanishad reveals what? In this context, Upanishad reveals Om. Okay, the word Om is now, let us have a small analysis of the word Om. What exactly is Om? Because all of us use the Om in a very, with very different ideas. And in today's world, with so much of social media, everybody has different ideas. Somebody has been told what is Om by his parents or his elders. Somebody has been told what is Om by some teacher. And different teachers give different ideas of what Om is. Somebody has read a Facebook post, somebody has read a WhatsApp post, and so on and so forth. Okay, so everybody gives different ideas about what Om is. And therefore, it helps us to understand exactly what is Om from the Shastric point of view. The most common idea about Om is that it is the name of Easwara, and we can chant it to invoke the grace of Easwara. Easwara Anugraha Prapti. For that, you have to chant. And what is the grace of Easwara manifesting as? It will manifest as Vairagya, right? Now, again, a lot of people say that this chanting of Om regularly, it gives total Vairagya. And total Vairagyam, most Grahasthas are afraid of, right? And so there has come into being this idea that if you are a Grahastha, and if you're actively in the age where children are wanted and all that, so at that point of time, you should not chant Om by itself. You should always add the name of a deity. So pure Om is not to be chanted because it gives total Vairagya. And that's not good for a Grahastha in his early stages. So chant Om Namah Shivaya or Om Namo Narayana so on and so forth. You add the name of a deity. So you're still addressing Ishvara, but you're addressing Ishvara in the Saguna aspect. And that Saguna aspect differs depending upon what you are looking for. Okay. But is there any real reason that Grahastha cannot have Vairagyam? That is something which we all need to understand. Vairagyam doesn't mean that you cannot love. Vairagyam we saw in the Bhagavad Gita, the second chapter, the first chapter. Vairagyam means vina raga, without attachment. The key is attachment. The Grahastha should not have attachment. And you have to recall the entire discussion of that first chapter to be able to understand correctly. Non-detachment or detachment is not the same as lack of affection or lack of loving or lack of care. In fact, it is the detached person, the Vairagi, the one who does not have attachment, who can love the most. Anyway, that discussion we'll leave another day, but you can always go back to the Bhagavad Gita first chapter and we are talking great detail about that. So let us look at a little grammar, from the point of grammar, the derivation, the etymology. So there is a dhatu called av dhatu. The v has a halant below it, so av. So if you look at the dhatu patha, you will see that av, it says av is equal to rakshane, to protect. And therefore, this om comes from the dhatu av. So avati rakshati iti om. That which protects, that is om. Okay. Therefore, Om is considered, since it is a protector, it's considered also as a Mangala Suchaka, a indicator pointing towards Mangalam, towards auspiciousness. And therefore, chanting of Om is always auspicious. And here we must remember that in the alphabet, in the Varnamala, Sanskrit Varnamala, is Om there? Anybody knows? Anybody is familiar with the alphabet?
No.
No, it's not there.
Om is not there. So Om is not a member of the Varnamala. It can't be really called alphabet. It's more of a verbal symbol, which we call pratika. Okay, so that's one aspect of looking at Om. The derivation of Om from the dhatu is in this manner. You can also look at the phonetic meaning. So Om has three phonetic elements: a, u, and ma. Now, if you have been in close contact with the baby, the first sound that the baby makes is always a. In fact, we also, if you are not trying to pronounce any particular word and just randomly opening your mouth and sound is issuing, the sound is usually a, right? Now, the last sound when the mouth closes, that is ma. So a is the first sound, ma is the last sound, and therefore u is taken to represent all other sounds. Right? Remember that a and ma, the combination of these two sounds gives a very famous name. What is that?
Soham. Soham. Om Soham.
A and ma. You combine it. Everybody uses that word?
Amma.
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 So that amma, mama, ma, mom, everything comes from a and ma. So the world of a human being begins with these two words, a and ma. Infant's world starts with this because the first person it recognizes is his mother. It is amma or mama or ma, whatever. And in between these two words is u, all intermediate sounds. And therefore, the sound om. Remember that the word om has to be not pronounced om. There are a lot of people who break it into phonetic elements and say aum. So that shows the total ignorance of our culture. It shows total ignorance of the fact that Om comes from three Sanskrit elements, and there is something called Sandhi in Sanskrit, the combination. So and U, when you put them together, when you combine the alphabets and U, you get O. So therefore, it is Om. It is one syllable, Om. Right? Because the Ma doesn't extend further. And therefore, it's called the one syllable mantra, Om. Now, this Om, therefore, has, as I said, the first sound, all intermediate sounds represented by U, and the last sound represented by Ma. So it represents the entire universe of sounds, right? And whatever, in this case, it is sound universe, universe of all sounds. And whatever represents everything, what is that? Ishvara alone. And therefore, Om is the name for Ishvara. That is one more derivation. Okay. So there is another Upanishad called Mandukya Upanishad, which we shall be doing sooner or later. Right. But that Mandukya Upanishad, a very short Upanishad consisting of 12 mantras only, but very, very beautiful. Now, it has some mantras, so which define Om. And therefore, I'll just go through the mantras very briefly. So we will be seeing it in detail when we do the Upanishad. The first mantra of the Upanishad, Mandukya. Okay, not Mundaka. Mandukya. What does Mandukya mean? What is the Hindi word for Mandukya? You have to use your head, yeah. Mendak. What is Mendak?
Frog.
Frog. Okay, so the name is Frog. Not that the Frog Upanishad, but anyway, the details of that we'll see when it comes to the Upanishad. But remember, it is not Mundaka. Mundaka is the bald head, the Mundan, bald head. Mandukya is a frog. So they're two different Upanishads by name only. So the first mantra is Om Iti Etad Aksharam Idam Sarvam. Om Iti Etad Aksharam Idam Sarvam. Om is Akshara, is the alphabet, is Akshar. Idam Sarvam, it represents everything here. Right. So as I said, because of the U and Ma, once we chant Om, remember that all names have to be formed out of alphabets. There is a beginning alphabet, Ma ending alphabet, and U represents all the alphabets. So all names are covered in the word Om, right? And names represent forms, and therefore when you chant Om, Shastra says you are covering all the names and all the forms also, and therefore you have covered the entire creation. You have covered Brahman, Karana Brahman you have covered, that is the creator, Karya Brahman, the created you have covered. Okay, it's a very important derivation. Karana Brahman is who? Nirgunam or Sagunam?
Sagunam.
Sagunam. So when you chant Om, you are covering all names and therefore all forms, and therefore the Saguna Brahma, Hiranyagarbha, Lord Brahmaji has been covered. And all the names also include what? The entire universe. So the Karya Brahman, the Karya Prapancha has also been covered. What about Nirguna Brahman? When you chant Om, you are saying everything is covered. Are you covering only the names and forms? Are you covering only Saguna, Ishvara and Saguna Prapancha? No. Because after you finish chanting Om, there is a silence. And in that silence, Nirguna Brahman is there. So when you chant Om properly, you chant Om, there is a silence. Again Om, again there is a silence. So in that chanting, the entire Srishti, Saguna Brahman, Karana Brahman, Karya Brahman, and Nirguna Brahman, all are covered. And that is why, Om has so much of an importance. We say, just if you have known nothing else, no other mantra you know, Om sufficient, Om chanting is sufficient. And it is a very, very important mantra, and it has to be chanted correctly. Om, Om, And there is a matra. The matra is the time unit, right, for chanting Om. So time unit, you can take one flip of your fingers is one unit. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 matras is called in chanting language. It is called what?
Pluta.
Pluta. Correct. So 3 matras is Pluta. More than 2 matras, Pluta. The right chanting time, the right time unit for a chant of Om is 3 matras. And therefore, Om, you have to chant properly. You can't. There are times when you can extend the Om, that's all right. But normal chant was 3 matras. And it should be Om and not Aum. And therefore, there is a Sampradaya. There is a saying in the Sampradaya that if you chant Om in an incorrect manner, you incur some papam. Okay. And Sampradaya gives you a very nice example. It says that papam is equivalent to the papam you get when you break up a husband and wife. Okay. So please chant Om correctly. And now Om is, remember, it is not a word. It is a symbol. So we call it pratika, a verbal symbol. It's a verbal symbol, pratika. And wherever there is a symbol, it represents something. And this symbol, Om, therefore represents who? Ishvara. Now remember that what is the difference between a word and a pratika? Because you might think Om is a word, but I'm saying it's not. It's a pratika. So a word reveals something, right? Any word reveals something. So if I say, for example, I say mobile phone or a mobile. Mobile is the word. Is a shabda. Mobile is shabda, the word. The shabda artha, the object revealed by that word is this thing, right? And therefore, there is always, whenever you talk about a word, there is a revealer, that is a word, and a revealed, the object which the word refers to. There is a connection there. That connection, revealer, revealed connection, in Sanskrit it is called abhidhana abhideya sambandha. The connection is, the word is there, and there is an object revealed by the word. The word, therefore, has no meaning without an object, which means that you don't have a word which doesn't represent an object. Words are coined to represent objects alone. And therefore, in any word, there has to be a abhidhana, abhideya connection, revealer, revealed connection, right? For example, when I put up my hand and say hand, and you can see my hand, okay? Once you know that the word hand is associated with this object hand, then later on, you don't need the image. Whenever somebody says the word hand, the image of the hand is automatically associated with it. That's the meaning. Why am I saying all these things? Because there is a difference between a word and a pratika. Pratika is a word symbol, right? It's a symbol. It's what is known as alambanam. Something on which, alambanam is what? Alambanam literally means something in which you hang something, like coat hanger. A coat hanger is alambanam, on which you hang the coat, right? So here, the word is a symbol. Om is a symbol. A pratika is a symbol on which you do a adhyasa. You do a superimposition, right? So pratika is the word symbol. And similarly, of course, you have got pratimas also, right? Pratima is the same thing, a symbol. Both pratika and pratima are alambanam. They are symbols. But pratik refers to a word symbol. Pratima refers to a form symbol. So, for example, Shivalingam is a pratima, which is a form. Saligramam is a pratima, is a form. Om is a sound symbol, and therefore it is pratika. And this pratika is superimposed upon Brahman. Brahman, so to say, is hanging from the pratika as far as we are concerned. So when you say Om is everything, the moment you say Om, just as the moment you say hand, my hand appears, the moment you say Om, you are, the Om itself we cannot say it's Brahman, but you are superimposing that Brahman upon the pratika Om, and therefore when you say Om, Brahman is invoked. And so when I say Om is everything, it means Brahman is everything. And Brahman is an object for meditation. Therefore, Om also is an object for contemplation or meditation. Okay. So I said we'll look at a few mantras from Mandukya for that. So that first mantra I was saying, Om iti etat aksharam idam sarvam. Om, this pratika is everything idam. Everything here means everything which is visible. And there is a explanation of that. He says, Bhutam bhavat bhavishyat iti sarva omkara eva. Sarvam omkara eva. Bhutam, what is there in the past? Bhavat, what is there here? Bhavishyat iti, what will come in the future? Sarvam omkaram eva iti. All that is Om alone. Very nice definition. Om is everything here, and not only everything here, everything that was in the past, everything that is now, and everything that will be in the future, all is Om alone. And Yatcha Anyata, and furthermore, something more. What is that? Trikala Atitam Tadapi Omkara Eva. Whatever is beyond the three time frames, Trikalam, past, present, future. Why is he saying this? Because he said, Bhutam Bhavat Bhavishyam. All that is in the past, present, future is Om. And he wants to cover everything. So he says, whatever is beyond the past, present, and the future, Tadapi Omkara Eva. That alone also is Omkara. So that is the first mantra saying that whatever is, whatever was, whatever will be, and whatever is beyond the time frames also is Omkara. Now, you might ask, why do you give that definition? Why do you say that whatever is beyond time frames? After all, there are only past, present, and future. Anybody has an answer to that?
That will cover the Brahman, the Nirguna aspect of it, because whatever is in the past, present, and future is subject to arrival and departure and will be Anatma, will and beyond that will be Atma.
Okay, so basically, yes, Raji, boliye.
No, because time, when there is no creation, there is no time.
Absolutely. That's the absolute bang dot answer. That when you say past, present, future, you are talking about Srishti. That has been creation. And therefore, all that is there in creation is Om, is Brahman. And before creation, during Pralayam, there is no past, present, future because time is born when space is born. And therefore, before creation also, it is Omkara Eva. Okay, so everything is Brahman alone. Before creation, Brahman was there. After creation, we think Jagat is there, but actually only Brahman is there. Very, very beautiful mantra. That is the meaning of Om. So we are looking at Om here. Om represents that Brahman. Whenever you chant Om, you are invoking not only the Brahman which is present before creation, the Brahman which is present in the form of creation also you are invoking. Okay. Then there is the second mantra of the Upanishad, which says, Sarvam hi etad Brahma, ayam Atma Brahma, soyam Atma Chatushpat. Okay. So, Sarvam hi etad Brahma. Everything is Brahman alone. And then there is a Mahavakyam which you may have heard, Ayam Atma Brahma. This Atman is Brahman. Which Atman? Remember, Atma means I. So when we are so used to discussing Atma as a third party that we forget that the moment Atma is said, the word Atma in Sanskrit means I, hum, And therefore, I am Atma Brahman, I am Brahman. It's often translated as I am Atma Brahman. This Atma is Brahman. But I am Atma is I, the Atma. I am Brahman. And therefore, Om is a symbol not only for Brahman, but a symbol for me, Atma. So whenever you say Om, you have to remember, I am that Om, I am that Brahman. Okay. Now, I talked about the silence. So I'll just take that part of it. We'll see it in great detail when we come to the Upanishad. So the next part is Soyam Atma Chatushpat. Chatushpat means four. And therefore he says that Atma, Saha, I am Atma, Chatushpat is divided into four pieces. Four padas they call it. So four parts. Really speaking, Brahman and Atma cannot be divided, but it is only for understanding that we are saying, because why we are saying there are four parts is because Om has four parts. And when you are saying Om is Brahman, you can say that since Om has four parts, which part of Om, which part of Om corresponds to which part of Brahman. So the parts of Om are called matras. The so-called parts of Brahman is referring to as padas in the Upanishad. So look at Om, it has three matras, A, U, Ma. And that's why I said it's Pluta. It's got the three matra timing for chanting. And there is a fourth matra, the silence, which falls when you complete Om and before you start the next Om. That silence has no matra, so it's called a matra, without matra. So a matra, u matra, ma matra, a matra. Akara, ukara, makara, a matra. These are the four aspects of Om. In fact, if you heard the word Turiam, a lot of people think Turiam is a state. Like you have the Jagrata Avastha, you have the Swapna Avastha, you have the Sushupti Avastha, and some people extend that and say there is Turiya Avastha. There is no Turiya Avastha. Turiam is Brahman. Turiam, literally Turiam means fourth. Okay. So in the Ma, remember the silence, the amatra. Can be uttered only when there is silence. U can be uttered only when there is silence. Ma can be uttered only when there is silence. So the very adhishthanam, the very support of U and Ma is the silence, is the amatra. And therefore you can say that silence from which A is born, U is born, Ma is born, that silence is the very substratum, the adhishthanam of the three matras. The adhishthanam always pervades the three matras. And amatra, therefore, is not only following the Om, it is pervading Uma. Right? And it is amatra because in that silence, there are no matras. It pervades all the others, but in the silence, there are no matras. Similarly, Brahman consciousness principle, it pervades Jagrata Avastha, pervades Swapna Avastha, it pervades Sushupti Avastha, and it is there in between the avasthas also as the substratum. So that is the equation. A is equal to Jagrata Avastha, U is equal to Swapna Avastha, Ma is equal to Sushupti Avastha, and the silence, the amatra, is that Brahman which pervades all the avasthas. So Vyashti and Samashti, both levels. So A represents Vishwa at Vyashti, Virat at Samashti, U represents Taijasa at Vyashti, Hiranyagarbha at Samashti, Ma represents Prajna at Vyashti, and Antaryami at Samashti. So remember, A merges into U merges into Ma, and from Ma alone, A emerges. Just as Vishwa merges into Taijasa, Taijasa merges into Prajna, and from Prajna alone, Vishwa emerges. And you have to extend that cycle to Samashti level. What is Samashti level? Virat merges into Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha merges into Antaryami. From Antaryami alone, everything else is born. So at Samashti level, Antaryami is called Easwara. And then, therefore, this consciousness which is pervading all the levels is Turyam the fourth, without which the other three cannot exist. Remember, Turyam literally means fourth. The literal meaning of Turyam is fourth. So never think of it as a avastha, not a state at all. And if you think it's a state, then you're saying Brahman is a state, so which is completely wrong. Brahman is the substratum of all the states, of everything actually. Therefore, this Turya, the fourth is also a matra. In that Turyam, in that Brahman, there is no Virat, no Hiranyagarbha, no Antarya. And this amatra, this Brahman represents pure consciousness, nirguna consciousness, having no gunas whatsoever. And therefore, Om is the name for the Saguna Ishvara. And when the Om ends, the amatra, the silence, is the name for Nirguna Ishvara. Therefore, Om covers both aspects, Vyakta and Avyakta Brahman. You can meditate upon Om as representing the entire Srishti, the entire universe, Virat Ishvara, Vishwarupa Ishvara. Or you can invoke Om as standing for Nirguna Brahman, the Vastu, and meditate upon that also. And therefore, Omkara Upasana is the highest of all upasanas, conferring both Chitta Shuddhi and Punyam. Punyam by way of Saguna Ishvara Upasana, by way of doing it as a Upasana for Punyam. And if you do the Nishkama Upasana, it confers Chitta Shuddhi. So Chitta Shuddhi, Punyam, both are the benefits of Omkara Upasana. Okay, now we'll come to the mantra itself. So he says, Dhanuhu grahitva Upanishadam mahastram. Pick up the bow which is revealed by Upanishad. What is revealed by Upanishad? Om. Therefore, pick up the bow of Om, which is mahastram, a great weapon. As I said, we have to take astram here as a weapon, the bow, because you're talking about Sharam later. Okay. So here, pick up the bow of Om, which is a great weapon. Grahitva. The grahitva means received. What is received? This bow, this Om, this Brahmajnanam, you should have received. How? From the teacher, properly, through the parampara, through the proper teaching, sustained long-term teaching. Then what? Now the bow is with my hands. Om is in my hands. But the arrow is the one which has to travel. The bow is the instrument. The arrow has to travel. And therefore, for the arrow to be effective, it has to be sharp and has to be straight. If it is not straight, it will flutter while it travels. It will not hit the target. If it is not sharp, it may be straight, but not sharp. It will hit the target, but will not pierce the target. Okay. So that arrow, Sharam. Sharam is arrow. In this case, it is the Jivatma. Okay. That Jivatma, Sharam hi Upasa. Upasa has to be expanded. Upasana Nishitam. And Sandhadita. Upasana Nishitam Sandhadita. Having sharpened that arrow with Upasana. The Jivatma is the traveler, therefore is the arrow. And he has to be refined using Upasana. And the travel will continue how long? Till the arrow hits the destination Brahman. And what is the role of the teacher? The Acharya is the archer. It rhymes also. Archer is Acharya, poor fellow. He dispatches each Jivatma to Brahman one by one. So this Jivatma, this arrow, Nishitam, sharpened by Upasana, by meditation. So you have to add over here Karma Yoga also. Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, he sharpens the arrow, makes it fit to travel. And then once you make it fit. Before you make it fit, you have to ensure the arrow is straight. So Upasana sharpens the arrow. What about ensuring the arrow is straight? So that is where all the Ravi Sampatti comes in, which are in Bhagavad Gita. All the Asuri Sampatti, all the evil tendencies have to be removed, and all the noble virtues have to be invoked. The Asuri Sampat makes the arrow crooked, and therefore, of course, it's straight away say that evil tendencies make you crooked. So the Jivatma is crooked if you got evil tendencies. Therefore, that tendencies have to be removed, and all the virtues, Daivi Sampata, developed. And that is done through the development of values, living a life of ethics and morality. And therefore, ethics and morality, which is sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, are compulsory for straightening the arrow. For a jnana yogi, sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is absolutely necessary because the arrow has to be straight. If the arrow is not straight, you may have the most powerful bow, but the arrow will not travel through. Therefore, it has to be straightened out. So Chitta Shuddhi is straightening the arrow. Upasana is sharpening the arrow. And for Upasana, what must do? The mind must not only have Chitta Shuddhi, but it must have Chitta Ekagrata, the capacity to focus one-pointedly, capacity to do Shravanam and Maranam. And therefore, Karma Yoga is for Chitta Shuddhi. Upasana Yoga is for Chitta Ekagrata. Karma Yoga is for straightening the arrow. Upasana Yoga is for sharpening the arrow. And therefore, the arrow here is the Sukshma Shariram, the mind. The bow is Om. The target is what is superimposed upon Om, Brahman. And Sandhayita, Jivatma has to be brought to the bow. The bow is Om, the Shastram, the Jnanam, the scriptural teaching. And once you fix that sharpened and straightened arrow to the bow, that fixing of the arrow to the bow is what we refer to as Vedanta Shravanam. Even after coming to Shravanam, remember that one has to keep your mind focused. And therefore he says, Tad Bhavagatena Chetata. With a committed mind, with the intellect which is focusing on Omkara and recognizing the meaning of that Omkara as Brahman when you chant. Not just the chanting. The result of chanting will give you punyam. But your Omkara Vichara should be there also. So you are recognizing the meaning of that Brahman when chanting. What do? Third line, first word. I am here. I am here means pulling inwards. Here you're talking about pulling the bow. When you pull the bowstring, you're holding the bow, you're pulling it towards you, right? So you're pulling the bowstring towards you. Before the arrow goes out, the string has to come towards you, and then you let it go. Then only the arrow can go out. Therefore, before the arrow goes forward, the string and the arrow are pulled inwards. Then alone can it travel. Without pulling inwards, there is no impulse, there is no impetuous. So in the same way, before coming to Jnana Yoga, that pulling inwards is a very nice analogy. It is withdrawing inwards, moving away from the external world, moving away from your preoccupied mind, making sure that your preoccupied mind is now focusing inwards. An external mind is a shallow mind. It cannot really understand Jnanam. Extroverted mind is a shallow mind. And therefore, by drawing the arrow inwards, what is being indicated is that the mind should be turned from extroversion to introversion. The introverted mind is a very crucial instrument for a sadhaka. Because for an extroverted mind, Upanishads will be irrelevant. Brahmajnanam is irrelevant. So once your mind has been turned inwards, then Tadeva Aksharam Lakshyam Vidhi. May you strike that target, which is Aksharam Brahman alone. Laksham is the target. Vidhi here is, we can take it as strike. With that introverted, sharpened, straightened mind, which is the arrow, may you strike that successfully, strike Brahman, the target. Hey Somya, O pleasant one. So you have to chant Om and stay with the chanting. You can't just chant once in the morning and say, I've done. You have to stay with the chanting for a long length of time. And think about the meaning also. Only when you do that will the meaning will the Om become meaningful for me. And what is that meaning? It is that consciousness principle which I am, which is present in every thought, right? I must recognize that every thought is a RC. Every RC has got a RM. Wherever I say RC, the OC is also there. There is no RC without the OC. Of course, there is no RC without the RM also. But the OC can exist without the RM and without the RC. Therefore, in every RC, there is an OC. Therefore, in every thought, there is consciousness. But when the RM is not there, when the RC is not there, the OC continues. And therefore, I recognize myself as that consciousness present in every thought and also present in the absence of thoughts. So I am there not only in Jagrat and Swapna Avastha, I am there in Sushupti Avastha also when there are no thoughts. So every thought, therefore, has to be learned to be understood as Brahman alone. See, the thing is that we are all used to saying that we should suppress thoughts so that my mind is focused. But if you think about it, if Brahman is present in every thought, and remember Brahman is Sat, so even the RM is also existing, right? Sat means existence. Even the RM is not different from Brahman. So if RM is Brahman, RC also is OC only. RC is also Brahman. Therefore, every thought is nothing but Brahman. And how can Brahman ever disturb me? Therefore, if I learn to recognize that every thought is Brahman, then I will know that no thought needs to disturb me. I will know that when thoughts are absent also, there is Brahman alone. It does not need to disturb me. Whether there are thoughts or whether there are no thoughts, Brahman is there everywhere. I must learn to recognize Brahman in the thoughts, as the thoughts, and recognize Brahman as the silence. And then there is no disturbance. So we saw yatra yatra manoyati, tatra tatra samadhaya. Wherever the mind goes, you should be in samadhi because Brahman is there. And if samadhi is there, wherever the mind goes, where is the question of being disturbed from samadhi? Okay. So a few important, ideas here. This bow arrow example, we can say that, does it represent Omkara Upasana, meditation on Saguna Brahman? Because Upanishads talk about Omkara Upasana as Saguna Brahman meditation also. And this we will see when we come to Taittiriya Upanishad. Omkara Upasana is taken in great depth as Saguna Brahman. Chandogya also you will see Omkara Upasana on Saguna Brahman. Or should it be taken as Omkara Vichara, Nirguna Brahman Vichara. Right? So I just give you a brief sample of that from Mandukya. Past, present and future, Avasthatraya Vichara. So is it to be taken as Omkara Upasana as given in the Upanishad Taittiriya, or should it be taken as Omkara Vichara as given in Mandukya? So that is a doubt. Okay. What should be taken? This example, this bow arrow example, does it indicate Omkara Upasana or Omkara Vichara? So Shankaracharya in his Bhashyam, he totally, skips the subject. He says that you guys decide, what you want. So when the Bhashyakara does not talk about it, there are sub-commentators, Tikakaras. And we have two sub-commentators. Both are very famous actually. One is Anandagiri and one is Satchidanandena Saraswati. There are two very famous commentators. In their tikas, in their sub-commentaries upon this Shankara Bhashyam, they say that Anandagiri says that this bow arrow example is to be taken as Omkara Upasana. Satchidananda Saraswati takes it as Omkara Vichara. So there are contrasting views, right? Now the question is, which one is the better view? We cannot say which one is the correct view, because both are very respected acharyas, both are Advaita tradition only, and both are giving. Anandagiri is a very respected acharya, and he says Omkara Upasana. Satchidananda Saraswati is a very respected acharya, and he is saying Vichara. So we have to decide now which is better. And you have to use your own head, right? You can't, because the opinions are contrasting. Now the decision is up to us. So which view is better? Now I'll say you look at the context, right? The discussion is on Aparavidya or Paravidya. The discussion here is Paravidya, right? So Aparavidya, when you discuss, you can talk about Upasana. Paravidya, when you discuss, you should be talking about Vichara, which are inquiry, right? Upasana is meditation. So Aparavidya connection is always with meditation. Paravidya connection always with inquiry. So because we are talking about Paravidya here, the contextually it is more appropriate to take the example as Vichara and not Upasana. And the mantra itself says, Sharam Upasa Nishitam. What does it mean? The sadhaka has already, first of all, Sharam has been straightened out with Karma Yoga. And Upasa Nishitam has been sharpened also. The arrow has been sharpened through Upasana. And therefore, the sadhaka has got what? A sharp mind, Chitta Shuddhi. After Chitta Shuddhi, what is the next step? Shravanam only, right? And therefore, we take it, at least I take it, that the example, it refers to Paravidya, it refers to Vichara, it does not refer to Upasana. There is nothing wrong in taking it as Upasana, mind you, but contextually, the better interpretation is Vichara. So with this, I'll stop for today. Any questions?
Sir, in this bow and arrow example, just one thought arises that if it is Paravidya, then the bow, the arrow, and the archer, everything is Brahman.
Yes.
But when it comes to Paravidya, because the bow and the arrow, it creates there is a difference, like thinking that Jivatma and Paramatma difference.
Yes.
So is it not more related to the Aparavidya?
It's something which you have to decide by yourself. That is why I said there are two conflicting opinions from two great acharyas. It is something which you have to decide. I think we should take Paravidya. If you think it is Aparavidya, it is great. No problem.
No, Acharya.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's a personal decision because there are two interpretations possible. There are many stages at which two interpretations are possible. But remember, we are in Upanishads. The primary goal of Upanishad is what? Only Paravidya. It's even otherwise, even Aparavidya, if you say nothing wrong, because Aparavidya is stepping stone. So you decide how you want to take it, as a stepping stone or as a final thing. Both are equally okay. There is no wrong, there is no right. If you take it as Aparavidya now, sooner or later in your journey, you will have to take it as Paravidya.
Thank you, Acharya.
Acharya-ji, when you had explained about Astram and Shastram to us, I remember you told us that an Astram is something which is thrown out of the hand.
Correct.
Away from you.
Correct.
And so here, if we take the bow as astram,
no, you are taking the bow as astram here simply because sharam is being used elsewhere. Sharam is clearly an arrow. And if you say sharam is there, then where is the bow? Therefore, Upanishadau, what is revealed by the Upanishad is the weapon, the bow. That's how you arrive at the meaning of astram as bow. Dhanuhu. Not only that, you look at the word itself. Dhanuhu maha astram. The bow is the great weapon. You cannot be saying that bow is the great arrow.
Yes.
So that's the reason. That's the reason.
Gee, thank you. It was very nice. We'll have to listen to it several times to.
Yes, to assimilate that, it requires time. Okay, and I would again and again, request you that before coming to one Upanishad class, please revise the previous classes. At least the notes you have made, go through quickly. Because as you go forward, you will find that it becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. And if you lose track of the previous, it's not like Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, you can join in the 10th chapter, the 15th chapter, 18th chapter, you still learn something. Here, there's a continuity. If you miss the continuity, you miss a lot. So this will
Acharya.
Yes, John.
So when we talk about the Omupasana today, I remember listening that there's nothing such a pure Upasana in the Vedas. Every Upasana should be accompanied by a ritual. So in the modern sadhana that some sadhakas practice, like we do like this japa meditation or repeating the mantra, that's not considered Upasana according to the Vedas?
Well, it's like this, that in the Vedic rituals, there is always a dhyana sloka. Right? So the dhyana sloka is the upasana part. And then you can chant, which is the karma part. So if you're chanting Vishnu Sahasranama, the dhyana sloka is the upasana part. Upasana part means you're invoking the deity's form and meditating upon that. And then the chant is the karma.
So when we do
just do the chanting alone, is it?
Yes. So when we do, for example, japa meditation, japa upasana.
No, japa is not upasana. Japa is karma.
Okay.
So, karma. If you want to convert that to upasana, you have to do invoke the deity, meditate, and then do the japa. So if you're doing Om Namo Narayana, you do a dhyana sloka first, and then you start Om Namo Narayana. So you covered karma upasana.
So when we do normal japa for Chitta Shuddhi,
it's not upasana. It's karma.
It's not upasana. I see.
Manasika karma. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Acharya.
All right. Thank you for your patience.
Acharya ji, is there any reason why the teacher is addressing the student continuously as Soumya?
He's got a pleasant face. So pleasant one. Yes,
For the last three mantras, he's been addressing the student as Soumya.
Yeah. See? Unless, student must have had a pleasant face. So it's pleasant one. Pleasing one, which means he may be happy with the student for his focus also.
Yes.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you,
Thank you, Acharya ji.